Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for October 7th through the 13th. And I wasn't quite sure what to call this week. We have a lot of mercurial energy, so I was thinking about some of the aspects that are happening this week, and I was thinking about the hidden being revealed, unconscious aspects being worked out, the unconscious coming into consciousness. So these are sort of in mercurial fashion, the multitude of different things that I'm thinking about for this week. We do have Mercury making several different aspects. It's also changing signs. We'll be moving into Scorpio. And we are continuing to experience the trine of Venus, Mars, Saturn, but with a slightly different emphasis this week. So we're going to talk about all of that. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a psychotherapist and an astrologer. And as always, I am so thrilled to share the astrology of this week with you from a psychological perspective. So let us talk about what's happening. The first thing that we'll start with, which is sort of a continuation of last week, is Venus in Scorpio will be making an exact trine to Mars in the sign of Cancer. And so last week we had this coming in with Mars and Saturn is still in this equation, but right now it's more the Venus and Mars that are making this more exact trine. And this is about bringing healing and emboldening to your life. This is about invoking passion, Venus and Mars, and then a desire for action. Also themes around connection and the long-term effects of our actions, the long-term effects of connecting in with our values and where it is that we want to be decisive, to be direct, where it is that we want to stand up for something, advocate, or fight for something. And last week we also had our new moon in the sign, new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. So last week there was a lot of emphasis around relationships and relationship dynamics, and this continues into this week because we're moving our way into the lunar cycle. And so especially Venus in Scorpio making this harmonious, easily flowing aspect to Mars, there is something that may be ignited, that there might be a passion or an inspiration or a desire to connect. There's also a lot of creativity encoded into this particular astrological configuration. And so these are the things that are coming up. I think also this is especially applicable to those of us that are working with Saturn energy right now, whether you're having a Saturn transit to your birth chart or you are simply meditating on Saturn as it relates to you as a human, or maybe Saturn in your birth chart. And I'm saying that because Saturn is a slow growing marathon style experience. Saturn is about deepening into the multiple layers of a situation and really chewing on something and really digesting something. And returning to, with Saturn and Pisces, returning to our experiences of boundaries, of limitation, what it means to have a limited or limitless life, and how we spend our time here in this very precious life that we have, how we spend our resources, how we spend our energy. And with Venus Saturn in this mix, it really asks us, or reveals maybe reveals opportunities to contemplate why it is that we're doing what we're doing, and the priorities that we have and how those fit into how we're living our lives. And this is a trine energy, so there's a lot of flow, there's a lot of ease. It can also be very easy to sort of skip over it because it doesn't really require anything of you. And so I think these are things to meditate on and to notice where you're called, where you're inspired, where your energy feels like it is opening, where it feels like where it feels literally good in your body to exist in a situation or with a person or in a particular space. This is all really helpful feedback that might be even more emphasized this particular week. So also this week, okay, so actually also this lends into the emotional tone of this week, which is connecting in with the lunar cycle. So we had our new moon solar eclipse in Libra on Wednesday, the 2nd of October. And there were so many themes around this particular lunation of new beginnings, but also endings, how beginnings and endings are interconnected, letting go and loosening the hold on something in order to bring something new in, or in order to allow a new phase of something to develop, especially around relationships, beauty, aesthetics, and how we find a sense of ease, equanimity, balance, pleasure. Balance is a verb, balancing. And this week, we are moving more into that experience via the first quarter moon in the sign of Capricorn. And the first quarter moon is happening in Capricorn on Thursday, the 10th of October. And so this is about moving into a situation for your further growth and development. We're in the waxing phase of the lunar cycle, so this is when the moon literally starts to appear larger and more bright in the sky. And so emotionally, we are moving more into this sense of growth and development and being and seeing. So this combined with the Venus, Mars, Saturn trine, there's a lot of emphasis around bringing something into being, doing something, feeling lots of things. And, it really depends on what is most alive and present for you in your life. Now, it might be more of an internal process. It might be something more external. And the first quarter moon tends to be a time where we reevaluate how we want to direct our focus, and where we get more feedback on what we were sort of sensing and feeling into during the new moon. When we have a new moon, it's a very subtle, intuitive time, and in some ways it can feel like more like we're not really sure what the new thing is actually during the new moon. It's usually easier to see what the new thing or new phenomenon was or is after we get some space and time from it. And so this first quarter moon marks a initial pillar of space and time, and being able to decide on, especially being in Capricorn, how you want to invest your time and energy. Now, also this week, so let's talk about Mercury. So Mercury is doing a few different things. First, Mercury is in Libra. Mercury has been in Libra since September 26th, and it will be there until the end of this week, until October 13th. So we've been experiencing since late September, a little over a week, couple weeks. We've been experiencing Mercury, the mind, the thought process, the ability to communicate in this relational sign. In this sign, Libra, that is about trying to find harmony and balance and fairness and justice. And also, Libra is very much about contemplating all of the different options and possibilities and weighing all of the different options that are available to you. Now, Mercury will make a trine to Jupiter in Gemini this week. So another trine here. So lots of like really harmonious, easy flowing energy. actually, I want to edit that a little bit. So just because it's an easy flowing energy doesn't mean that like, ah, yes, life will be easy. That's great. It's more like we can more easily access uh, the energies that are happening, and they can flow together very well. So in this case, Mercury, Jupiter are flowing together well. And Mercury is the mind, thought process, communication. Jupiter is about expansion, growth, development, exploring new things, really delighting in the possibility of the new, of inclusiveness. Jupiter is also very connected to social justice, um, exploring different viewpoints, different cultures from your culture of origin. And when these two come together, there is an expansiveness of thinking really big, having lots of different ideas, getting excited about thinking or planning about something, and really thinking big, thinking about the higher vision, also like more philosophical sort of thinking. Uh, can be a great time to explore the ideas that you have for something, even like writing projects or talking with folks who you enjoy having conversations with. So, like this sort of massive expanse of ideas, and uh, and also, so I would say, I would notice how this feels to you and how to, I think with Jupiter, sometimes it's helpful to create a container around the the thinking mind, and especially because this is Jupiter in Gemini. So um, also too, Jupiter is very benefic, and there's this element of fertility around Jupiter as well. Jupiter traditionally is associated with children and um, having children, the experience of children, but also like learning, teaching, etc. And so there is there is something that is coming forward in you via Mercury, Jupiter. And so, whether these are ideas or insights or conversations that you want to have, so how can you create space for this in a way that feels containing? Because I think that sometimes Jupiter can feel uh, overwhelming or engulfing, or it can feel, in essence, too much in some ways. And so, how can we uh, bring in this Saturn energy to sort of create a structure or a container for the Jupiter? And yeah, I don't know, this might mean uh, writing down your ideas or capturing them in a voice memo, or um, keeping a journal if you typically don't do that, or doing a lot of like free writing brain dump things this week, or setting a time limit around your social interactions if you find that you sometimes maybe overdo it in some ways. So those are some thoughts around Mercury Jupiter. And then also simultaneously, Mercury still in Libra will make a square to Pluto in Capricorn. And so this is a very different energy, whereas Mercury trine Jupiter is very light, very effervescent. There's this excitement. Mercury square Pluto is about connecting in with hidden truths. It's about working with the unconscious, revealing the unconscious, and it's also about transmuting difficult experiences. Especially Mercury Pluto is very connected to uh, unconscious thought patterns or unconscious beliefs or scripts that we have that play in our head. Oftentimes, these are things that we've inherited from our family of origin or maybe our culture of origin, like these thoughts about what what something means about us when something happens. So often these are can be thoughts that involve a person feeling or being bad in some way because something happened, or that something bad will happen because you did X, Y, and Z. And so we all, because we're human, we all experience shame or guilt or um, grief, even in varying different ways. And Pluto holds these experiences symbolically. So when we have Mercury, the mind, coming into contact with Pluto, there is something here that can be digested, that can be processed, and that can be integrated into the psyche so that it is no longer being held unconsciously. And when I say held unconsciously, what that looks like is either holding it in the body via um, a physical somatic experience like tension or um, an unexplainable illness or something like this, and also unconscious material can manifest via these thoughts that we have that we don't even realize that we're having, oftentimes, where we're sort of like acting from reactivity, and that these scripts are sort of playing and informing our behavior. Anyways, okay, I digress. I digress. My point is that I find within the field of astrology that we can get very nervous when we see Saturn or Pluto or even Uranus for that matter. And the way that I look at this is that Mercury is coming in to make an aspect with Pluto at this particular time. And this is a signal that there is something in you that is getting ready to be transmuted. So Pluto, Mercury are not making anything happen. They're like this cosmic clock that's like telling us, ah, yes, there's something coming down the pike. And that thing that is coming down the pike, or at least one of those things, is that there's some kind of like unconscious little nugget of info that's going to be softened, and that ultimately that in the moment sometimes can feel a little bit sharp or difficult. And then once it is experienced, then it can be embodied and integrated. And then there is a relief or a release. Sometimes with Pluto, there can be a stronger sense of catharsis as well. But these things can be subtle as well. So I kind of am really struck by this combo of Jupiter and Pluto connecting in with Mercury, because Jupiter, we love Jupiter. Jupiter is like expansion and growth and abundance and all of the things that usually tend to make our lives easier. And then Pluto is a little bit more mysterious. There's a lot of depth to Pluto, but both of these, both Jupiter and Pluto, there's um, a bigness to them. There's an expansiveness to them. And so I would notice what you're thinking about as I'm talking about these things, if there's something that maybe comes to mind. And then also what is sort of, knocking around in your brain throughout the week, especially things where there's some charge there, whether that is excitement and inspiration or something that feels like there is a tension or a shrinking there. That tells us that there's something in the unconscious that is wanting to come forward and move through you. Now, if that wasn't enough with Mercury, also this week, Mercury will move into Scorpio. So this is happening on Sunday, October 13th, and Mercury will be in Scorpio from Sunday, the 13th of October through November 2nd. So not too long. Mercury moves very quickly through signs. And so when this happens, so this happens really late in the week, so we'll talk about it maybe a little bit more as Mercury moves through the sign. But Mercury in Scorpio is about thinking deeply, exploring, researching, and thinking deeply about feelings, emotions, psychological dynamics, interpersonal dynamics. Scorpio is very connected to um, power dynamics, especially how power plays out in relationships and the ways that we connect with other people um, from a place of emotional, what do I want to say here actually, how we connect with others in a way that is deeply bonded, where there is emotional connection, where there's emotional vulnerability, where there is attunement, and also where those things sometimes get disrupted. And so overall, this with Mercury, there's a lot of potential here for a couple things, for becoming more clear, more inspired, gaining some insight, and then also kind of like working through something that maybe has been challenging you for a little bit. Uh, you know, we're also talking about Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn here. And so this is Mercury connecting in with a Pluto that has a sense of, I don't know if I want to use the word maturity in Capricorn, but Pluto has been in Capricorn for a very long time. Like it's cooked, it's done. So like we have experienced Pluto in Capricorn for a very long time. So I'm saying that because I do wonder if maybe a part of what is being revealed is not necessarily like a new thing that you're going to be like, whoa, where did this come from? I mean, it could maybe, sometimes like the unconscious is unconscious, and that is inherently surprising. And also, it may simply be a returning to another layer in this spiral path of experiencing yourself and experiencing what your what your patterns are, what your way of being is in the world, and waking up more and more at another layer of of the dynamic. Okay, so I'm gonna pull some tarot cards for you here. Yeah, I think that's all that I wanted to say about that. So yeah, it kind of I'm so curious to hear how you're doing, how you're feeling, both now and then as we get into the week. And I do want to share with you that I'm really excited about some therapy groups that I'm offering, and there's such a joy to facilitate and to experience. So group therapy is a really great way to work with me, um, to connect in community in a safe, supportive, and confidential space. And um, there's a couple of different uh, channels to do this. I am hosting an astrology therapy group on Wednesdays, a tarot therapy group on Tuesdays, and then I'm having moon circles with the new and full moons. And I would love to have you join me if that is something that you're feeling called towards, especially during this time where we have this moving into relational focus last week and this week, especially. Okay, so this is a time for you to get into a place where you can settle into yourself, whether you are in a comfy space or you're driving or you're walking or you want to whatever, wherever you are, do the thing that you can do right now to connect into your body, to connect into your breathing, to connect into your sensory experience, the sights, tastes, sounds, smells, etc. Feel yourself relaxed, at ease, while being aware and await here. If there's a particular scenario or contemplation that is on your mind, you can hold that in your heart now. And you may also wish to request the guidance and presence of any ancestors, spirit guides, angels, goddesses, deities who you connect with. Ask that they be here with you now to provide guidance and support in a way that you can understand. And if there's one particular card, 1 through 3, that jumps forward for you, now is a time to connect in with that. Okay. So, first card is the Lovers. And so the Lovers for me is so much about honoring yourself in relationship. And the Lovers reminds us that our integrity and authenticity is core to having connection with other people. And I'm actually thinking about how I've been listening to a lot of Gabor Mate lately, and this is one thing that he talks about very often um, is that we need both connection and authenticity, and that uh, psychologically there are many times where, especially in our youth, where we need to sacrifice our authenticity in order to maintain the connection. And then, which is a very protective function, of course. And then when we're adults, we continue to do that, sometimes unconsciously, of course. We continue to um, sacrifice our authenticity, even in small ways, via not speaking up or not claiming something, or not even feeling connected as much with our own sense of presence and values. And it's such a paradox, because that lack of connection with ourselves means that we are less present and less connected with other people. And so the Lovers is speaking to that here. The Lovers is about the divine intervention that happens when you connect with yourself, that you are able to connect with other people. And it's like the angel in this card reminds me of that. I'm also, in this card in particular, very drawn to the broomstick that's above. It's sort of like, looks like it's hung from the ceiling. And in this card, there's 2 people that are sitting on a bed. One person looks like they're doing the other person's hair in a very sweet, like sort of maternal way. And then there's an angel outside. And there's this broomstick sort of hung horizontally over the window. And the broomstick to me speaks of flight and travel, but also protection as well, and like a guardian of the space. And so I don't know, I'm not quite sure how, we'll see how that maybe connects in here, but there's something here around protecting your space, maybe, and that's connected in with your sense of integrity in relationships. Okay. Second card is the Strength card. So really 2 very encouraging, empowering cards here. The Strength card is about emotional strength and emotional resilience, and psychological resilience for that matter too. The Strength card reminds us that we can face the difficult things and that actually, you know what, as I never really thought about it this way, but this is just coming to me in this moment, is that the strength card is really about emotional regulation. Because the strength card is traditionally in this, like the traditional interpretation, it's about like remaining calm in the face of adversity, and it's about like moving forward with a sense of calm and ease, and like the confidence and knowing that you can move into something that's maybe challenging. You know, in the traditional card, there's a person that's like looking into the mouth of the lion, but they're totally chill. And that, to me, connecting that psychologically, this is about our ability to soothe ourselves when we're freaking out about something. And you know, how do we do that? How does anyone do that? How do we both proactively, preventatively, and then in the moment calm, soothe, and regulate ourselves? And what I think is really interesting is that, like, certainly there are ways that we can do this independently on our own. You know, there's so many things, you know, breathing practices and meditation and somatic experience, somatic practices, and also co-regulation is essential for humans. We need that. We cannot survive without it. And so that brings me back to the Lovers card, where it's like there's something here around relationships and co-regulation, and how can we be supported by others through adversity, and that there's something here around relationships and knowing that like this feels very Lovers card to me too, like this balance of uh, knowing that you are a strong, resilient human being, and that you can do this. um, you are good enough, you can do it, you have the things that you need, and also you can ask for help as well. Both are true. Now, that actually, I didn't think about this, but that leads to a good segue with the Ten of Wands, the last card. And the 10 is a culmination. It's the last of like the number cards in the tarot. The wands are about passion, enthusiasm, creativity, sometimes even work or projects to a certain extent. And so there is a culmination around things. Now, traditionally, the Ten of Wands can sometimes denote feelings of being overburdened, or like having so many things to keep track of that it's sort of difficult to push forward. But it's like uh, that final lap, or that final round, or that final push. It's kind of that sort of energy. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately with you know, with themes around Saturn and Saturn Mars, is in the final lap of, at least this makes me think of, in high school, I did swim. And so um, when you would do the final lap, the coach would always say, you know, that is the time when you don't come up to breathe, you just push through and you like swim your little heart out. You swim as fast as you can, and you really move into the finish line. Um, and this card is making me think of that. And I'm sort of feeling conflicted about it too, because the Ten of Wands can come up when we have been pushing ourselves too hard, when we have maxed our capacity to keep going. But it can also come up when it's like, oh, we're like almost there, and just a little bit farther. And so only you know where you're at, you know, whatever process you're in. In this card, I think it's interesting. This person is, they have this cute dress on, and they have this little teddy bear, and they look like they're wearing ballerina shoes, and they're sort of ballerina-ing down this staircase of brooms. And so like they're just coming down the broom staircase, so to speak. So this to me is that maybe there's a little more ease and flow in moving through this last phase of the process. I do think it's so interesting that the first two cards are the major arcana. So the major arcana speak more to the big themes, the more structural components of our life. And then the last card is a minor arcana, which is more like mundane, immediate day-to-day kind of stuff. So I'm also thinking too, this is where my mind is going, and you let me know how all of this resonates with you. I'm thinking about the lovers, and I'm thinking about how we had this new moon solar eclipse in Libra last week, and that is the last eclipse that we will have in Libra for the next 9 or 10 years or so. And so there is a 10 of Wands completion, wrapping up situation. And it's wands, there's a lot of them. So that really, I'm thinking about the Capricorn first quarter moon here, where it's kind of like you're doing something and you're sort of like wrapping up that process. And then with the Strength card, the Strength, there is a recommendation for you to find your calm, to find your sense of regulation, to find your sense of being able to be in the experience, and to position yourself to receive whatever it is that you need in order to get into that space, to ask for help, to find accommodations for yourself, to give yourself a hot second, even if it's just a couple of minutes, to catch your breath. All right. And that is your astrology for the week. I'm so grateful for you to be here, and I appreciate you so much for listening. I always love hearing from you and hearing how you're doing and how this is landing for you. And as always, my name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a psychotherapist and an astrologer. I would love to hear from you if you are interested in working with me. I am accepting new clients for psychotherapy, and then I'm also hosting several therapy groups. And those therapy groups are a great way to work with me if you either can't afford individual therapy, or if you are already in therapy and you want to supplement your healing journey with a community collective aspect. So whether that is whether you are working with another therapist, you're working with me, or we have worked together at some point in time, would love to have you there. I'm wishing you a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon.